Good morning. Well, it's still a beautiful sunny day out, and it is crisp, and I think it's going to be pretty cool the next couple days from what I hear. How are you doing? What's up? Hi, Plum. Are you still out there? You hard-working woman. And just wondering how Linda, Vanessa, Denise, Patricia, and Heather, Janice, how y'all doing? All right, what's today? Can you believe how crazy, exciting, strange, scary, I don't know, the world is getting pretty interesting. I think a lot of people's motives have really come to surface, and it's not what we didn't already kind of spiritually come on, jump. It's, sometimes you just know. Come on, jump. Okay, on your own time. Sometimes we kind of know. I don't know what day it is. I think it's the 3rd. I like this book. Sometimes when I'm thinking about too many things, we call it racing thinking, or the squirrel cage wheel. And I'm not exactly there today, but I have some things I want to do on my to-do list. And my head stops spinning so hard when I do a few things. One, I do a little reading, which usually gets me focused on the next right step. I need to get some, I'm running out of notepaper in here. Well, that hardly ever happens. Well, I know where I have some, so I will take care of that tomorrow. Meanwhile, I'll just take a little piece of paper out of my little journal. How's them apples? This thing's gonna fall apart one of these days. I keep taking pages out of it. So, okay. Laundry. For 2 people, we go through a lot of laundry in this house, especially because of the dogs. I have to rewash all the blankets we put over furniture. I don't know why I bother buying bedspreads and chairs. And 5 years ago when we moved into this house, I got some furniture reupholstered, and it cost as much as buying brand new quality chairs. And never get to see them. Should have just ordered everything in brown. Hi. Can you see Frankie? What's that boy doing? What's it? You're strong today. Like every day. You're just a strong boy. I was thinking about getting a DNA test for him. Get it. Because I think I told you that I had a worker show up and we were chit-chatting, and he said that he thought he looked like a pit bull mix. I don't know. With as many kids as we have in this neighborhood, that is not something I want people to think. But I had kind of decided, forget it, because I'm not getting rid of this dog now. I mean, I'm in love, so forget it. So, anyway, I don't have a lot to talk about, but I have everything to talk about. It's like, so here's some news, and I think I may have mentioned this. Hold on. I just want to speed read through this, see if there's anything here that stands out. Be who you are. How can I? I don't know who I am. Ooh, that's a good point. Sometimes when we get clarity into, okay, for instance, this was an eye-opener. When I got clarity into some of my character come on, baby, jump. What is it? Why are you staring at me? Come on, jump. Come here, jump. What do you want? Come here. Come here. Jump. What do you want? Come on. What do you want, baby? Jump. Come on, jump. Good boy. He's so stubborn. Why are you so stubborn? It's the same word. It's not like I'm using a different word. Look at your beautiful self. Oh, he sheds so much. Okay, so I finally had gotten some insight, and I know this, it's a universal experience, believe it or not. If you haven't had it, I can see why you'd go, what? But it's actually inspiring to see, but when you're the one going through it, it can be tricky in your head. For instance, I knew on a certain level that part of my personality challenges, my short temper, my impatience, my quality control personality was due to being abandoned and me wanting to be strong and smart. Well, I internally was making excuses for my behavior. When I realized that, I was stunned because I didn't realize that's what I was doing. I thought it was that is. I didn't realize that at some level, it was my decision to behave that way. Now, it's not my awake decision to behave that way. It was a defense mechanism that I was unaware of. I'm going to try this. I haven't tried this in a long time. It was one of those Timu experiments. I like the smell of it because it reminds me of the makeup my grandmother used to use. She used it. I mean, it doesn't smell like that Cody powder, really old-fashioned and like, ooh, old lady. It just it said it does have a fragrance similar to what she used, and I think she used Mary Kay. I think she sold it for a while. But anyway, I thought I would share with you that when I recognized that, look at me, sorry, that now that I knew what I was doing, I could have some control over my behaviors. Now, mind you, a lot of people still will say, well, if the kitchen's too hot for you, get out of my kitchen. Or they'll say, you drove me to to the person they're mistreating. And by mistreating, I mean if you're arguing with someone and you're yelling, unless they're hitting you or unless you're in a loud factory, there's no reason to yell. Yelling is emotionally violent. I didn't know that. I thought I was just making myself clear. Yay. Where you going, pup? Oh, somebody must be walking down the street. So, there are some people like me who can raise their voice. That's why I really try to pull my voice down. I have a very high-pitched voice, like normally, not very high like some people, but fairly high. So I have to work at pulling my voice down so that it sounds more adult. You know, as I worked on my trauma, that was a big help too. Because I didn't have to sound so frail. Yeah, I think I did that in my early 20s. I read something in a book about that you could spot people who had been abused, because it is very rare for people to actually have high-pitched voices. So I found that interesting. Anyway, so I started, I don't know if I like this foundation or not. So I started forcing myself to have more patience. One of the things that took me a very, very, very long time to do is once I decided to start treating people more respectfully, I was trying for so long to be respected, to be valued, to be cared about, to be loved unconditionally. But I had no way to do that. What I did know how to do was fight dragons for you. But I didn't know what it meant to stay engaged and committed. Yeah, that's a true story. I mean, I wasn't a terrible person, but I was not giving what I was asking for. You know, this makeup's okay. If I'm going on a trip, traveling, and I don't want to take more liquid, I could take this. And that would last a while. I mean, I'm sure that stick is there. I just wish I got a shade darker, because as this starts to separate in my wrinkles, you can tell it's just a shade too light. But that's the thing, too, about getting inexpensive makeup off of Temu. They don't have a wide color range. You get lucky. If you find something you like, you better jump on it, because it's probably not going to be there, especially if it's an excellent product. Because people like me are going to learn sooner or later, like I am today. Today, I'm going on there and I'm going to look again for this particular lip color. These are very small containers compared to some. Like, this is a gloss. This is that permanent 16-hour color as well. This says 24-hour. So they're about the same amount. It's hard to tell. This might have a little more in it. I'd have to read the sizes. I don't have my glass on. I haven't used the gloss yet. But I like how long it stays on. Also, with this, the color is close enough that I'm not going to complain about it. And I don't need to use a lip liner on this. Yesterday, I forgot I wanted to use this as lip liner, and I put it on top of a lipstick I already had on, and my lips lasted. That's it. So anyway, going back to my story. When we start recognizing how much control we have over our own behavior, getting to know who we are, getting to really see ourselves like the outside looking in, it's very interesting. This makeup is too dark for me, and I didn't return it. So I'm gonna use a little squirt to blend. So my point is, see, this is just barely darker than what I have on, but it's gonna make me feel better. And it's a day off, so I'm gonna do paperwork. That's it. It's like, wow, there is a problem here. And then you get an out-of-body experience and go, wow, who would want to talk to that mess? It's true. Oh my gosh. When I realized that the situation was ugly, and part of it was because I just didn't know how to shut my mouth. The reason I'm sharing this with you is because I'm not alone. And right now, there are a lot of people talking about politics, talking about freedoms, talking about war, talking about privacy and money and jobs. And here's what I can tell you. I wish there was a way to calm people down enough, because I was hard-headed. I didn't listen to the attempts of some people. I had to have a professional tell me in a way that I could hear it. And I had to trust that therapist. And the fact was, I was able to finally hear it in a way that I could internalize it, is look at myself. So if I could, but I had to be calm enough to really pay attention, to really hear it. Right now, it's like there's so much noise. I remember watching TV shows where they show this bunch of teenagers who go into a store and distract the salesperson so somebody else can steal a TV or something. And you're like, oh my God, they didn't even see that happening. Well, that's because there's this whole bait and switch thing going on. And believe it or not, we do that in our life. We bait and switch people. We take our strong personality sometimes, and we can be talking and we can flip the script on people who aren't as smart as us or aren't as quick as us, who are so addicted to us they let us get away with it. Okay. This comes across way too gold This would be great for someone with auburn hair. Huh. I don't know. I'm going to wear it anyway. Because I'm going to just be home. My washer and dryer don't care. So are you understanding what I'm saying? There's a point where it's like, okay, how much do I want to continue blaming someone else? So when I'm thinking about, I'm just going to tell you what I'm referring to. For instance, when I was in a relationship and someone would say, what did you do yesterday? I'd be like, why? Why are you asking? What's wrong with you? You don't trust me because I'm a woman? You don't trust me because I work hard? You don't trust me because... And it's just like, looking back on it, it's like, girl, that's embarrassing. What are you hiding? Right? But even if I wasn't hiding anything, I had such strong self-righteous indignation that it looked shady. So with this whole Doge thing, where he sent me an email with 5 things you did today, or he then changed it to just send me an email to let me know you're breathing. It's like, what? Just do it. I've hired people before, and I've had to fire people before because they're not doing their job. So I don't understand this self-righteous indignation on one side where they're saying you don't have to check in with your boss. You're just supposed to get a paycheck and never be questioned. Well, I can tell you, I've worked for the federal government, and I've watched these. I've even been a union steward at that job. And I can tell you that it's hard to fire somebody, especially once they have so many years in, like a full year in, 3 years in, whatever. We had a guy to set, oh, never mind, I won't even go into all that. I can tell you, and me and a lot of other people said it shouldn't be this hard to fire somebody who's a shithole or shitbag, whatever. Excuse my language. And then I said it twice, so I guess I'm not that sorry. I guess I'm trying to prove a point. There are people who are not team players. They call in sick every single chance they get. Every single chance they get. And then they'll figure out how to get personal days, sick days, vacation days. And then they start having mental health days. It's like, how many days a year do you want to work? It's not even days a week or month. It's just like a lot of these people in Congress or legislation. It's like now all of a sudden they have a permanent job for the rest of their lives and they don't even have to show up. Okay. Woohoo. See how that's working? They want to be paid out of the people don't understand. When these people are fighting, yelling and screaming on, stop spying on me, stop checking to see if I'm doing my job. It's like, you've got other people who are sitting in the cubicle next to you going, finally. And they're answering that email because they want you to know, I'm working hard. I know Joe Schmo is over there at the, hanging out at Starbucks downstairs and is never in their office. They come up once in a while to check on Henrietta. I'm making shit up. But when you start to get to know yourself, like I always knew I was a hard worker. I always knew that. Matter of fact, that's where I got some of my self-righteous indignation. It's because I knew I was a hard worker. I just feel like wearing lots of makeup today. How's that? But there's a point where even good workers will quit working so hard because they just feel ripped off. It's not that they might not be getting paid enough. It's that they're feeling degraded emotionally every day, watching somebody else. Matter of fact, there are different levels of getting paid. And in the section I worked at, we had guardsmen who were putting in extra days, and they weren't making much. Then we had federal workers who were getting paid a decent wage and had decent benefits. And then we had AGR, which means it's a full-time Air Force position paid by the federal government. They got the double whammy in benefits. They were really hard to fire because they were full-time Air Force. Yet, if they broke Air Force rules, it didn't apply because they were being funded by a pot of money that made them not, I don't know, it was really complicated, but they were getting twice as much money. It was really hard to work next to someone who was getting paid that much. And I am layering on the eyeliner because I miss wearing a whole bunch of eyeliner. I know I got talked into cutting back, and I've really been cutting back, and I've been a good girl by not wearing a whole lot. But I'm going to tell you right now, I miss with my weak eyes. They're not that bad. My eyes aren't that bad. But I just miss seeing a big old fat line of eyeliner. I do. So, I've been watching this stuff. And when it comes to supporting a war, I'm telling you, it is so heartbreaking to watch. But it's almost like having a child who keeps sneaking off smoking cigarettes. Sometimes, I remember back on the farm, now I don't condone this, but they would make you sit there and smoke a whole pack of cigarettes. And a lot of kids never smoked again after that. I didn't have to go through that, thank goodness. But well, nobody was watching me, so. But I've heard of it. That'd be awful. So I'm just thinking, if you can't stop somebody from, I don't know, that wasn't a good explanation. It's like ripping the Band-Aid off. It's like if your kid keeps spending money, they keep saying, oh, I need to pay my car insurance. Oh, I need to make my car payment. But before they make those payments, they go out and party. They go out and buy a motorcycle. They go out and you're just like, you were supposed to pay your car insurance and your car payment so you could get to work. And now you're asking me for more money? And the kid is so inconsiderate that they don't even care that they promise they get paid by other people to pick them up on the way to work. So everybody has a ride. That's what it's more like. And that's how I see it. I got curious. I got really curious. Just because, I quit watching the news for a few days, and then I was like, holy crap. I started watching it, and it was just like this day full of chaos. And I just feel like that's what I saw. So I started looking at people who put out news that I've never even heard of before, that have accents, and it has to be interpreted, and I'm just like, oh my God. That I had a hunch, and I was told this, but I just couldn't see it clearly. And that's one of the things that reminds me of how, when I finally started to see myself clearly, fairly clearly, I think I'm going to try this gloss. I was surprised. It was like, oh my gosh. Well, that's how I kind of feel with war. It's kind of like, I kind of knew that war was about money, but to do the deep dive in it and find out, oh my God, basically this feud between NATO, I don't even want to call it a feud. It's not even a feud. It's a feud, I think, between NATO and Russia over fine minerals and control. But even more than that, is as long as NATO can keep this fight going, and they've really enjoyed having it at America's expense, because they're all making so much money off of this Ukraine-Russian war that it's mind-blowing. Personally, I think the Forever lipstick, oh my God, that's what I call it, lasts longer if you don't put very much gloss on it. That's sort of my take on it. But I like this because it matches the inside of my lip pretty well. Oh well. So I'm watching that. I'm just thinking, it does not matter what any of us say or do at all. It doesn't matter what good arguments we have about the horrible deaths of these humans, of these people, because the wheels that are creating all this aggravation. It's just interesting that when Trump says, I got a plan, and his plan is like, you know what? It would stop the war, and there's going to be a lot of winners here, but at least people are going to stop dying. But there's more than one winner here. Sorry. You can't be the only winner. Which, as grown-ups, that makes sense, right? But what happened, I wish they had all those meetings out in public. They're saying, oh, that should have happened between closed doors. Why? Why should that happen between closed doors? We would have known about poor Sleepy Joe a lot sooner had some of those meetings been more public. We could have gotten him better health care. Poor guy. Anyway, I'm just saying, now all these countries who've been paying also in this war, maybe not as much, maybe they are stepping up, And I used to care. I used to think, well, they should be chipping in too. Well, now I'm thinking, no, they just want to keep this war going. And Zelensky likes having all this extra money that he doesn't have to be accountable for. I don't like having a teenager who's out spending money that I give him instead of paying his bills. That's what it feels like. That's what I see. So now it's just like, I love and doge, and I'm love getting out of this war. And I'm sorry people are dying. It breaks my heart. I was so upset about it for so long. And now I'm seeing, and I'm surprised, I don't want to yell and scream and cry anymore, because I'm telling you, my blood pressure was just going crazy. The whole deal about this is, it doesn't matter what we say. Zelensky's not giving up. And to prove a point, he's willing to keep fighting. He wants the money to keep fighting. And honestly, I was watching a video. I don't understand it as much. I'll have to see if I can find it again to watch it again. I got so tired researching it last night that I finally fell asleep. So I'm kind of confused on which video would say what if I go looking again. But what I was looking at was the Russian borders and how they changed. Why Russia wanted that little edge of land so bad? Well, there are several different reasons, evidently. And I was thinking, how interesting. Makes me want to know more about history. Because we do live in the best country on the planet. There is no doubt about that. I'm so glad I was born in America this time around. If there was another time around, I'm glad. Oh, man, I'm just so glad. I love it here. But that's my rant for today, is the more we get to know our own history, sometimes the more we can calm down and say, isn't it interesting? What could I do differently? And are the people around me allowing me to do something differently? Or am I insisting on doing something differently? I don't know how to stop a war. But at some point, I would have to believe that enough people are going to hear what's going on, enough people are going to investigate deep enough. I mean, Google it. Where did money go? Oh my God. Look at the stuff that's coming up. And there's some propaganda saying it's true or not true. And you can, my point is, the way we live our life, are we being unclear about our motives? Are we being unclear about where we spend our money, or where our loyalty lies, or well, fill in the blank. Everything I see on the big screen can be somehow interpreted on the little screen. we can start looking at it and saying, how can I incorporate this in my life? Or does it look like this is kind of in my life? Am I hiding things? Am I hiding money? Am I hiding truth? Am I turning stories around? Am I being unfair? Am I taking more than what's mine? Am I paying people back? Am I allowing reciprocity? Am I being fair? These are things that they can be codes to live by, codes of honor. There are some people, like I wasn't brought up with codes. I was brought up with confusion and secrets and sarcasm. Just anything but truth. Truth was ugly. Truth was ugly. Sad. Truth was sad. I just don't understand why I would tell my own kids, yeah, let my grandkids keep taking advantage of you financially. Or, oh, well, my parents won't pay for it, or my children won't pay for it, so I'll give my grandkids some money and go against my own kids. Like, why would our president give more money to a cause that's starting to look pretty shady, and you're rewarding this guy for letting his people die, when it's only fair that there's reciprocity, that there's a trade-off? You're thinking, then there must be so much more money. See, we were talking, it sounded like long term. See, I'm going to investigate. Not because I want to get upset by the news, but now I'm interested in history of this situation. I didn't have the time and energy for this before. That's how much better things are going here at home. Is now I have time to think about other things and just surviving. Oh my God, isn't that nice? So, things are getting better. I just find it very interesting. If someone, yeah, I just find it so interesting. My hair doesn't look great, but you know what? Maybe I'll come back later today and straighten it. Because boy, it just, I wore a hat yesterday when I went out to lunch with the girls, which, oh, I had such a good time when I go out with them. So when they do invite me to go, I'm just thrilled. Anyway, I wore a hat. And it really flattened down my head. And then I don't know if it's the weird humidity or what, but boy, my curl just fuzzed. Too bad. Too bad, so sad. So yeah, that's sort of where my head is going. There are some people, I don't know if you ever had this experience, but a lot of us have, that once you get to know somebody, you're like, oh, that's why they do that or did that. And then there's a little more leniency or a little more forgiveness. Just because you're like, oh, I didn't know that they went through that, or I didn't know they, just recuperating from cancer, or that they just got diagnosed, or they were driving like a maniac because they were on their way to someone's house that threatens suicide, or, you know, you just don't know sometimes why people behave in a certain way. So, I think that's kind of where I'm coming from right now is, dang, how does it get so flat? It's just kind of like, oh, so what's behind that? Did you see Stammer was saying, oh, we have freedom of speech in the UK? And it was like, wait a minute, I have to investigate this, because isn't that where King Charles is king? And I'm thinking, am I losing my mind? They don't have freedom of speech over there? He's saying, yeah, they do. But I was reading some of the comments, and they're like, how dare he lie when it's so obvious? When it's so obvious we don't have freedom. They locked up a grandma for what she posted on Facebook. Maybe that grandma's my age, so she might be a little spicy. But I just thought, what? So I'm gonna investigate a little bit on that too. It's kind of like, well, arrest? The UK arrest somebody for saying something or posting something on Facebook? I don't know. So I'm gonna have to look that up, because if it's true that Stammer was just however you say his name, just bald-faced lied to the president and to the American people, I'm not thinking, oh, you liar. I'm thinking, what made him think he could get away with lying about it? Or are they implementing new safeguards to protect people? And a lot of people just don't believe it yet. And he's working on it. But he's making it sound like they've always had it. So I don't know. Now I wonder. See, I have decided not, because of some of this new stuff I have found out, I have decided not to take it at face value anymore. I investigate deeply when I get hooked into something. I like research. I don't mind it at all. I quit researching things, to be honest with you, a while back, because there were things I couldn't find on the internet anymore. Like when ivermectin was getting bad-mouthed. I remember doing a paper once on Nobel Prize winners, but how some discoveries, some research was very beneficial by accident. And ivermectin was one of those things that was like, it was invented for one thing, and then it was found to be good for lots of other things because of how it worked. And then all of a sudden you couldn't find that information. You couldn't find that there were all this research and paperwork. And I was just like, what the hell happened here? Where's all that information? And then I started looking up pharmaceutical liability issues, and oh wow, did I find a lot. And then I started finding where they were dictating what doctors were doing. That was a beautiful deep dive. But I had so many people. That's why I got off Facebook. Is so many people were saying, that's lies. Well, they couldn't find it on the internet, so of course I looked like I was lying. Well, now the truth is starting to come out, and I'm too tired. And I've gotten to know myself well enough that being self-righteous doesn't look good. So I'm not going to email everybody or get back on Facebook and say, told you so. I had some people saying, don't give up, April. We need you out there making these statements. Don't give up. Most of us are just so afraid to say anything. Sure appreciate you. And it's just like, I don't know. I got tired of it. I think it's okay to give up sometimes, because rarely does one person make a huge difference unless they're the one paying the bills or paying for all the fun. That's the truth. Ta-da. All right. I gotta go. I better get going. My makeup look okay? How about all that dark eyeliner? What do you think? Too much? I don't know. Let me know. All right. I've done my venting for the day. I don't know if any of it made sense, but I love sharing it with you. All right. Bye for now.